Today we're going to talk about Pinery. Pinery Residence is the very first mixed development that is launching in Tampines West MRT. And disclaimer as usual, everything that we're going to share with you right here is based on my own analysis and research. Should there be anything that you need to run through with me or you didn't have clarity about, feel free to reach out. As a buyer, I want you to take this moment to ask yourself, what are the concerns that you guys have? Would it be the entry price? Or would it also be sometimes you're not too sure whether you are buying at a high or not? Will there be a chance for you to exit in future? And etc. Because if you have done a bit of research, you would have realized that Pinery is situated at a location where there are ECs coming up, whether it's at the Tampines East or the Tampines area, or else it's going to be the very first EC to TOP. Before that is Tenet, which is actually the best layout you should be choosing should you be considering for 2-bedder or 3-bedder, right? And of course, which stack is most important to choose for most profits or gain. We will be running through with all of you here today in these few different topics. And very importantly is how can we identify the sweet spot in this project. As a buyer, no matter if you're buying for own stay or no matter you're buying for investment, the key thing you want to know is I want to know what is the sweet spot to enter so I don't end up paying at a high. If you have not been clear about where it is right now, Pinery is situated over here, right 3 minutes walk to Tampines West MRT. So you can just walk across the road and then you are actually just right beside Tampines West. And of course, you are also situated very near to the future transformation, such as the Paya Lebar airspace, and further down you have the Bayshore Master Plan. So this Bayshore Master Plan, we know that this project called the Vela Bay will be launching at approximately 3,000 PSF and above. With this, it's also important for you to know that right now, if you are thinking of buying one at a possibly price gap with the future launches, you have a very good sensing because this should be ranging at about 2003 to 2005 PSF. And this just right across the PIE, you should expect this to be at 3,000. So there's actually a gap of about 5 to 600 PSF depending on which stack and which unit you are choosing. With this is also one of the potential reasons that investors might be looking at because of this price gap. Conversely, if you look further up, Paya Lebar Airbase is 800 hectare size. So why is it important for you to know this? Because there will be future live, work and play over here, which means that there will be also future land sales here that will pave the way for higher GLS in the future. And fast forward to Pinery as the site itself. Over here, this is where we are. Earlier, I mentioned to you that what you will be observing is that you have this just right diagonally across you being an EC, and you're pretty much fixed already because the rest of the land plots are all taken up and they are full already. So you should not expect an oversupply situation in Tampines West area because you are only left with 1, 2, 3 and the last plot over here, which is the 4th plot. And then what you want to know is that since I mentioned Revel Tampines is right opposite, you will be expecting over here, people are concerned whether next time if I'm going to sell over here and this is going to MOP, will there be upgraders to buy mine? Or will there be people who wants to decide between here and here, causing Revel to be indirectly my competitor? I'm going to address this in a moment as we go through the timeline to explain to you what are the pros and cons when you decide to hold on to this unit and when is the sweet spot for you to exit. And if you take a look at Revel Tampines, you notice that their MOP is at 2034. That having said, if I were to look at just these two as the comparison, if Revel is going to MOP in 2034, 5 years after TOP, 5 years and they sell, I don't think there's going to be any immediate issue because this one is actually TOP around 2030. TOP around 2029. And most of the people will be expecting to sell around 2030, thereabouts. So with 2030 to 2034, there's actually a good 4 years of difference where if you are not thinking of rushing to sell, you still can buffer for the next 4 years that potentially rent out at a good rate because you don't have much competitors in this MRT line. But if I actually widen the scope and you can notice, for the upcoming condo and EC supply in Tampines, this is what you should be expecting. In Tampines area, we know that there's one integrated development which is much larger scale than Pinery, and we know that as Parktown Residence, which is above 80% sold right now. It is also a mixed development that has MRT component and also bus interchange, with a TOP expected in 2028. During this period, their holding period is only 3 years. That means that they could easily sell in the year 2028 or sell in the year 2029. That means that there's a total of 1,193 units, resulting in, assuming if there's only a 30% of them for sale, you should expect at least a supply over here of approximately about 200 to 250 units for sale in the year 2028 that builds up to 2030. So why is this one thing that you must be mindful of? Is because Pinery is going to TOP in 2029. With Pinery being TOP in 2029, what should you actually be seeing is that there's only 588 units and people are going to start selling here in the year 2028 to 2030 with about 250 approximately units. If they're going to TOP, you're going to add on further supply over here, which means there's double supply in this area. But however, a lot of people are usually more excited when it's a new project. So in this year, when you TOP, you can actually have a choice to rent it out for 1 year first, observe the market and let the rest of the units push up your selling price, then you decide to sell. So if I were you, if I were considering Pinery, I would definitely think about this as, okay, maybe I wouldn't sell during TOP, knowing that there's much supply coming from here. I will let the supply over here to go up in price as they sell, and I'll just rent out for 1 year to wait till the prices reach to another point already, then I will try to offload my property. But not to even forget, in the year 2031, of course, we know that Orel does not actually have a lot of supply because Orel's location is also not as good as Parktown and Pinery. Therefore, if it's Orel itself, their MOP is in the year 2031. While since we know that their MOP in the year 2031, what you should expect is you expect another 5 more years of holding, as well as these people who are gradually selling in 2-bedder and 3-bedder and 4-bedder will not all sell one shot in the market, especially those who are buying for own stay. So assuming there's 700 units in the year 2031 and probably 20 of them are out for sale, that makes up to about 150 to 180 units for sale. If it's 180 units for sale together with these approximately 200 units for sale, a combination of 2-bedder or 3-bedder, what I would do is I will rent this out and probably look at the sale in 2031 to 2032. So you get the idea? Now moving forward, if you decide, oh no, actually I'm thinking of buying this for own stay, maybe I don't want to sell in such a tight timeline, I want to extend and prolong this period, then do be mindful that resale at Tampines is going to MOP in 2034. Since they are going to MOP in 2034, you should be expecting another 100 to 150 units in the market gradually as we go along in the years. So the sweet spot for you to think about exiting is 2030, you can consider rent out for this year. 2031, oh, it's too small. Wait, I'll write it bigger for you. 2030, I should consider rent out for a year, observe the market. 2031 to 2032, I should actually start pricing my unit in the market to sell. That's the first wave. And then if not, you may want to cross over here, maybe 2035, then you start selling again. So if you miss the very first window, you can consider to go in again at the second window so you don't compete with the rest and also enjoy your rental yield as you go along. Okay? So however, since we also know that I want to dive deeper that Orel, which is the first one to MOP in 2031, may take away some demands for buyers who are actually budget conscious. They may not have too high of a budget to pay, or they don't want to pay for a very big quantum for such an OCR area. What you should be seeing is that 3-bedder plus yard for the own stay ones, when they enter at 1,009 PSF, they should expect to sell in around 2,004 per square feet, making up to about 2 million to 2.2 million of sale price in the year 2031. For the 4-bedder, you should expect them to be selling around 2.4 to 2.8 million for their compact 4 and larger 4. Of course, for 5-bedder, it will cross 3.2 million, and that should be the ones that's happening in the year 2031. And suppose Revel also sells at 2004 PSF in 2034 to 2035, what you should actually be expecting is that Revel, which is just diagonally across, will also be selling for the 3-bedder around 2.1 to 2.2, and their larger 3-bedder and also 4-bedder should be around 2.5 to 2.8, even going up to 3.3. So why is it important for you to know this? Because we also want to take reference to Parktown residents, because eventually all these 3 projects will be the one to pump up the supply in Tampines area per se. For Parktown, we know that there's a total of 1,195 units. With this, their average PSF have already gone up to 2,003 PSF, and their highest PSF has already gone up to 2,006. That having said, you can ignore the quantum, but if you focus on the PSF and take reference to Pinery to expect how much they'll be launching, their land break or estimated break-even is sitting at about 1,008 PSF. With 1,008 PSF, what I should be seeing is that they should be launching at approximately 2,005 to 2,008 PSF. Now, looking at this is actually quite concerning, to be frank, because 2005 to 2008, 2004 to 2005 should still be an acceptable range. But anyone who is crossing 2005 higher range to 2006, that's a time that one should be a bit concerned because Parktown has already done deal up to 2006. With this, I will exercise caution about how much I will walk away if I'm actually at the ballot number. Or even if I don't get to ballot, when I go back and choose my unit, I will also be very conscious about this PSF because I want to make sure that I don't end up entering at 2006 onwards. So I'll come to that in a moment. So if we are going to expect the maximum amount that I'm going to embrace purchasing Pinery and yet making sure that I don't overpay for this project, I will actually set this as 2550 as the maximum benchmark. With 2550 as the maximum, I would say first max benchmark, you will expect that your two-bedder should be going around 1.5 to 1.7 million. And also, for the three-bedder, you should expect the quantum to be on the lower 2 all the way to 2.6 because their three-bedder has up to 1,023 square feet. Assuming if yours is at 990 to here, actually I think it's also good because if you're buying for own stay, buying for own stay and investment, highly recommended, no need to go until too big of a size. Most importantly is because the quantum you may observe is actually quite high. If you were to sell these sizes at 3 million in future, there might be some resistance with the sale because buyers may not be open to embrace 3 million purchase price for a three-bedder at that moment until the rest of the land sales has start coming up like Paya Lebar and also this Bayshore area. So with this, if I were to buy Pinery, I would also be looking at a more efficient size which is 872 to 990. A lot of buyers these days has gradually accepted that 872 to 990 is actually the just nice size for most of the family these days. With this, the quantum should be at 2.1 to 2.2. Definitely much more palatable for you to sell in future should you want to sell it at, let's say, 2007 PSF, which will still be around 2.3 to 2.6 lower range. So with this, that brings us to the final comparison of Pinery versus Resale versus Orel. With Pinery at this stage, assuming in the year 2029 TOP, you decide that, let's say I decide to be very greedy. I know that Parktown has already done deal at 2006 PSF. When they are going to TOP 1 year before me, their 2006 will have to sell at around 2009 PSF. If I don't want to be greedy, I'll just use this amount for my own sale since I'm younger than Parktown. I should expect my quantum to be around 2.3 all the way to 2.9 million for their compact three-bedders in different sizes. If I take comparison with these two, which are the ECs, for more cost-sensitive buyers, what you will see is that in Orel itself, which is the first one to TOP, MOP, their three-bedder but yard sizes is pretty similar with Pinery. They will be expecting to sell, Orel, if you know, is actually at a quite far away location, which means that it's not going to be as convenient as Pinery, and they do need to travel out. With this, you can notice that their quantum is situated at around 2 to 2.2 million. And for a private condo at about 100 to 200,000 higher, 100,000 to 200,000 higher, is still an amount that I think is achievable. But of course, if you go up to 400,000 onwards higher, you might really face some resistance with the buyer to sell. And if you wait for a bit longer, which is the second wave of selling, you should see that Resale, if they are going to sell at 2004 PSF, their quantum is also around 2.1 to 2.2. So on a conservative level, if today we were able to reach Pinery at 2950, I would think if for your sale in future, I would think it will be a very exciting price that we should be looking at. But even if we don't sell at 2,950 PSF, you should still be able to at least aim for 2009 PSF given that Parktown has already done deal up to 2006. With this, I would say that if you were to expect around 2009 PSF for sale, the quantum will have gone down by quite a bit. You should be able to sell it at 2.3 to 2.5 million. That will still allow you to move in the market. So what is the conclusion for this portion? is that if you were to consider Pinery, given that you're surrounded with a lot of future development, there will be this early mover exit plan between the year 2029 to 2031. And it will be actually most beneficial because supply is low and competitor is not too many. And then you're also very near to future transformation like Paya Lebar Air Base and also Tampines Regional Central Development. Not to even forget that Pinery is one of the first harmonized project in that area to TOP because Parktown is the first one. And which will be also advantageous because surrounding projects are all unharmonized. Hence, the quantum will be much more exciting for future resale buyers. If you don't know what this means, actually a lot of people are trying to embrace this new change in the market. A lot of our units are actually unharmonized, which is if you are living in a condo right now, your condo is slightly an unharmonized unit. So unharmonized means you pay for aircon ledge and pay for airspace and pay for an irregulated way of measuring wall to wall. And that's why you see some of the floor size is relatively bigger, which resulted in a bigger quantum. Last week, I just did a viewing with my buyer. We went through this project called the Lake View. And also we saw another project called the Lake Grande, I think. So what happened is the Lake View is going at 1163 square feet and is unharmonized. And we're looking at the quantum to be around 2.45 million for that project. But if it's further now at Lake Garden MRT, what you will notice is that for the future harmonized plot over there, they will be selling at the same quantum, but a much more bigger space as compared to the unharmonized. So I told my buyer, if you're considering to buy a resale, it's actually very important for you to be mindful about what you're buying for resale and are there future harmonized projects around you. Because although their PSF is going to be higher than you cannot forget that their quantum is way much more palatable and much more exciting. Because after all, it is new and after all, the price is the same. They will rather anytime hands down choose a younger one. If you're considering to buy a project for investment, do place more focus on a harmonized project right now because this is really something that we highly encourage for this year onwards. Lastly, what is the plus point of Pinery is you're going to have a very strong rental pool, mainly because you don't have a lot of competitors, and over that side, they're going to have a lot of transformations and you're quite near to the airport, as we all know. That's why the rental pool is quite strong. Now, enough said about the plus. Let's talk about the cons. The downside is that you may actually start to see slow movement once the first Orwell EC has MOP in 2031, and perhaps another cycle in the year 2034 when Revell MOP. And this could also deter you from selling or maybe slow down your sale process because you realize that, hey, actually right now I want to sell but there's other competitors and I'm mindful of it because Kelly shared with me before. Then do be very timely when you plan your exit plan so you don't miss the wave. And another downside about the Pinery is that you have a big development that is Parktown, that TOP in 2028. So you might face competition over there, but also it's a very mixed effects because with 2028 TOP, they may start selling ahead of you and the sellers all are pretty much greedy, right? We all want to sell higher than the previous, which may result eventually that they may also inherently push up the benchmark or the price in Parktown. And sometimes if you just price at the same or slightly lower, you can also sell off your Pinery. So this is actually subjective on at which phase are you going into for Pinery and when do you intend to sell, as well as what is the PSF of your entry and your floor level and facing, which we'll touch on it later. Some layouts, but another downside is some layouts are also not so efficient as compared to EC layout because we all know that EC layouts are built to be efficient. So we're going to take a look at the layout later to give you some perspective. And lastly, what is one thing you want to be mindful is the holding period may not be long. So because the holding period is short, if you're trying to exit at the first wave, you need to be very mindful of your exit timing and don't let rental drag you down for your exit plan. Because I have seen owners that rush into renting out and then take up a 2 years lease only to result in when they want to sell, they have a hard time selling, mainly because the tenancy agreement does not allow for exit clause. So if you really don't know how to time this or how to plan this, you know where to find. If you're someone you're working with, you can talk to them. Or if you need some advice, you can talk to me on how to time your entry and exit plan for Pinery per se. With this brings us to the next big topic is being a mixed development in an OCR area. Will we have unfair advantage when we want to exit? Because we hear a lot of different stories about mixed development. Some people are saying mixed development doesn't really make money. Some people say that mixed development does make a lot of money. So today, we're going to find out also what is the safety gap that you should be going into. That is probably something that you also want to know because in future when you want to exit, you are more mindful of how much are you entering in and how much are your neighbors also entering in. to track whether it's safe for you to exit in future or not. So this is a site plan or the site layout for Pinery. It's made out of 6 blocks of 14 story, and it's a 95.9% north-south orientation with all bin center and substations sunken in the basement, and which means you cannot really see it at all. The clubhouse also is surrounded by greenery because they want to create a oasis, like a feel of a near to nature feeling in a bustling city. And then lastly, there's also generous block distance between each other. Some people are concerned that the block to block are quite close. I'll come to that in a while. Okay, so before we go to the block to block distance, I think the key thing you want to be mindful is I have so many different blocks to choose from. Which is the block that you think is the most profitable or the easiest to sell in future? I know it's already a mixed development, but within the next mixed development itself, there's also specific stacks that you can place more priority or focus in. One example is that if I were to take a look at these different blocks based on the site plan, you can see that I have a few top first, second, and third choice. My first choice is actually the one that is closer to the MRT access, and that is a block 930. Now, why block 930 over here is because as lazy as Singaporeans can be, we also want to choose the most efficient block that allow me to have direct access to MRT. Because this is such a privilege for me to be staying just with one access down, I can walk to MRT. If I want to sell in future, I think this will be a very rare situation that you can jolly say that my block is the only block in the whole of Tampines West to have direct MRT access. So very unique and very good unique selling point. And this is one of the unique selling point that you can be watchful for if you're looking at Pinery. With this, that's my top choice. And the second choice, I would say that is at block 932. Why is that? Because this is actually accessible from Tampines Green and also bus stop, but that's not the key. The key is that I started to observe that when I'm selling units like Watertown, or when I'm selling like a normal condo like Park Colonial versus Woodley, and also recently I went to view Pinery Residences, there are actually buyers who are very cautious about, I don't want to come down and immediately see hawker. I don't want to come down and immediately see food court. I think this is too busy. Everywhere I go, I see people. I know I want convenience, but I also want privacy and quietness. So that's why with this feedback, in my opinion, I would choose block 932 as the second choice because it is not near the bustling food court, which is here, and it's also not near to the clubhouse. I mean, you can actually walk from facility to the clubhouse. Also, I feel that if I'm going to choose a one that is the furthest away from the MRT, there's also one more block here, furthest away, I think people will be saying that, this is the furthest from MRT. Maybe you may not be able to sell it as quickly as people around here. So if I were to choose, this will be the top choice. This will be the second choice for people who want a bit of privacy, but yet want near MRT access. And lastly, my third choice will be block 928. Why? Because actually this is near to this MRT as well. And below here is actually the F&B. The F&B does not mean hawker or food court because the food court is already here. The F&B can be restaurants and stuff like that. So if it's cafes and restaurants, I think this will be perfect because I can go down and eat. I can meet my friends downstairs. I can chill. I have coffee. I can bring my iPad down to do my work and stuff like that. And then come back right up to my home. So this is also one of the unique selling points of block 928. So in each of these blocks, there's unique selling point. And one is more for quietness, one is for super ultra convenience, one is for a bit of convenience as well as quietness, privacy, and also lifestyle. And then the ones from here all the way to the bottom will be a bit more bustling, nearer to the food court, nearer to the supermarket, and also furthest away from MRT, and then this one also furthest away from MRT. Okay, this is just my personal opinion because we've seen people on the ground for resale asking about these kind of questions, and therefore I want to share my knowledge with you so you can choose a more preferred stack and for easier sale in future. Now, how has other mixed development with private entity performed? I think my group today all are quite quiet. I'm not too sure whether you guys will interact with me or not, but before I go on, do you guys have any questions? Feel free to ask questions in the chat group because I welcome questions and I'm very talkative, so very interactive. Please ask questions if you're not sure. Okay, meanwhile, let me catch a breath, all right? Okay, no questions here. Let me continue. So how has other mixed development with private entity performed is this is Watertown and this is Treasure Trove. I want to take a comparison for you because you want to know whether at which price gap is it safe for you to enter with some good exit. For Watertown itself, this is a mixed development, and also for Treasure Trove, it's just right across it. Both actually TOP at almost the same time, and during the time when they TOP, they actually have experienced a gap of 35%. To be frank, Watertown was quite concerning because when they launched, their PSF was 1,002 plus PSF, and at that time, this is the highest record in Punggol. And many of the buyers were quite concerned whether they can exit or not. While truth be told, they did went through a bit of a market correction because you can see that their prices come down for a while. And then after that, it shot back up because they realized that it's actually on par with Treasure Trove. So since we know that Treasure Trove TOP is 2015 and this Watertown is TOP in 2017, you can observe that Treasure Trove also did some price correction at that time. Also mainly because Punggol that side actually just started developing. And not a lot of upgraders there one shot at that moment. So there were not a lot of demands, easy demands over them. And so when you see the correction, don't be alarmed because sometimes it's a supply and demand situation and Punggol was just started to transform. Eventually, Treasure Trove actually went out in price and actually almost merged in price between Watertown and this Treasure Trove. And that's why you notice Watertown actually went back up because people start noticing that it makes sense to buy Watertown. And that's why you see that there's actually a big gain from 1,001 all the way to 1,003 within just a span of 3 years. With this, actually, Watertown starts to show a bit of correction after TOP, mainly because Treasure Trove was also selling and Watertown was selling, and the rest of the condos at the back were also TOP or MOP around the same time. So as such, let's take a look at the grand scheme of things like overall. From 2015, from Treasure Trove's TOP until the next 5 years, you can actually observe that they only make a gain of 1.83%. But if you take a look at Watertown, from 2015 all the way to 2020, they actually have an overall gain of 10%, even though there was a correction over here. So this goes to show that actually, even though their entry is 35% ahead, they are still able to make a gain that is about 10 times more than a normal condo. But can I conclude it this way? The answer is no, because later on, let's take a look at how they perform. For Treasure Trove and Parktown, they are still having a gap at this moment, a narrowing gap of about 200 PSF. With 200 PSF, Treasure Trove is able to go up by 48%, whereas Watertown has also gone up by 42%. This also means that actually not all mixed development does not make money. It also goes to show that mixed development does also show signs of growth. In fact, maybe you may say that, hey, Watertown, Treasure Trove make more than Watertown, but I may beg to differ. The reason is because actually if you take 48% minus this 1%, right, plus this 1%, the total gain from point A to here, right, is actually about, I think I do a sum here, it's actually about 50%. So that means Treasure Trove from 2015 all the way to 2025 for the past 10 years make about 50% of gain. In this market right now, it's definitely going to be faster, but during that time, 50% till now is actually quite a lot. For 2015 from Watertown all the way to this, you can see that you actually make a total of 52, almost 53%. So even though their entry price was 35% higher, they still made an overall 10 years gain of 53%, which is 3 to 4% higher than a normal condo just right diagonally across. This means that 35% is still an acceptable range for condos around whichever you're buying for a mixed development. But overall, if I stretch out from the time they launched in 2012 until 2025, Treasure Trove actually made a gain of 71%, and Watertown actually only make a gain of 39%. So this also is a good reminder to let you know that the timing of your exit is very important. It doesn't mean that you buy a mixed development and you're happy holding it for a very long period. Mainly because sometimes things like deterioration or preferences might change over the years. So I would say that from here, I will be mindful of my time or the duration of my holding when I want to buy a mixed development, because it seems like the lifespan for a mixed development does not seem to withstand the test of time. So this is one point to also be mindful. Nonetheless, if I take a look at overall annualization rate, pretty different from the percentage growth, you can see that actually in specific transactions for the two-bedders in Watertown, these are their entry price. They entered at this 800 plus thousand in that time, in the year 2012. When they actually sell in the year 2018, 16 and 22, this is their holding period. You can observe that no matter if they're holding for 4 years, holding for 6 years or holding for 10 years, their annualized growth is still sitting at 4%. So earlier I mentioned about holding period. It doesn't mean holding on to the mixed development for 10 years is a good thing. Sometimes holding on to a mixed development for a 4 year could be good enough already because the annualized rate is no much different from anyone who's holding for a longer period. So one thing to be mindful is your holding period for a mixed development. Another example is the two-bedder as well, 915 square feet. This is at Treasure Trove. For Treasure Trove itself, you can notice actually they also enter about 800 plus to 900 lah. And when they actually sell in the 5, 7 and 9 years of holding, observe that actually the longer they hold, their annualized rate actually becomes more. The earlier they sell in the 5th year, it seems like they're not really doing very well. While other components like the timing of their selling in the year 2020 might not be a good choice, or maybe the owner is in a rush to sell, I have no idea. But to have an average annualized rate of 2% versus a mixed development of 4%, with a shorter holding period of 4 years to have 4%, versus a longer period of approximately average 7 years to see 2%, definitely I would think mixed development makes much more sense for investment than a normal condo. So what about the other example is Woodleigh Residences. For Woodleigh, this is TOP in 2023 and also 2022 for Park Colonial. Let's see how they perform. For Woodleigh itself, when they actually launch, they're having a price gap or a gap of 22.8%. For 22.8%, let's see how they perform. For Woodleigh, you can see from the time they launched in 2018 until 2023, this period, 2023 is the time they actually TOP, just now I was saying, you notice that they have already made a gain of about 18%. For this Park Colonial, you can observe that when they enter, they were at lower points than Park Woodleigh. And from the time they launch until the time they TOP in the year 2022, they have made a gain of 23%. So I'm actually seeing mixed signals over here for Potong Pasir area, which is District 13, because their launch price at that time was actually narrower than. But still, it seems that Park Colonial actually makes much more or grow faster than Woodleigh. This is in terms of the growth, in terms of overall PSF. But if we actually stretch out to the same duration, the result is also consistent. There's a 374 PSF gap from the time they launched in the year 2018 until 2025 during this year, which is last year, end of 2025. Park Colonial actually has made a gain of 51% as compared to Woodleigh at 36%. One of the possible reasons is because actually Woodleigh's developer, is not the most reputable, if I may say. And moving parts like this does also affect the demand over here. If you actually remember, Woodleigh has gone through flooding issue at that time. And this flooding issue is actually quite in the news and actually caused quite a commotion. Right now, they are pretty much settled already. But it goes to also tell that developer plays a role in how much gains you can make. With a quite cheap developer, I might say, they're still able to make 36%. I say it's quite impressive. From 2018 to 2025, that makes up to 7 years of holding. And then for Park Colonial, if you have seen, your competitor from Woodleigh is actually completely different. Because Park Colonial is actually very nice, very European, very classical style. And the moment you go in, you feel very welcome. And with that quality versus Woodleigh, I think even for myself, I would definitely go for Park Colonial than Woodleigh. And if you actually exit from there, there's actually an underpass that goes to the mall also. So let's take a look at the annualized rate now, because it seems like the performance is Park Colonial's better. If we dive deeper to specific bedroom type, which is 3-bedder for example, Park Colonial's overall holding period of 3 years seems to have a consistent result of between 6% to 8% in annualized rate. That means that averaging at about 7.5%. But if you take a look at this Park Colonial for 3-bedder itself, similar size as Woodleigh, you notice that their holding period is between 3 to 4 years, and yet at the same time, their annualized rate is only 4.5%. So this also is a very confusing situation, because why is it that their overall growth is 51%? Overall, which means from 2, 3, 4-bedder generally. But when you dive deeper into the bedroom type, you still see that Woodleigh actually have a much quicker annualized rate than a normal condo. So as chui as a development it still shows that the annualized rate is better in terms of specific bedroom type, and that is a consistent result that I'm getting. With that, this also brings up your confidence in Pinery and confidence in mixed development. Not for me to quote that all mixed development can buy, but just know that actually it seems like shorter holding for mixed development is good. But one thing still to be mindful of is that there are future land sales around you. And there might be an increasing amount of mixed development around you, because earlier I was mentioning you are surrounded with future developments. That means from the URA master plan over here for Tampines, this is actually the potential use of mixed development. This is from URA And then over here also you can notice this is the Tampines North integrate. This is the Parktown Residences. And over here you can also notice this is the Paya Lebar Air Base. And since we are going to understand they are going to do live, work and play in one area, there are actually plots for residential over here, which they may also potentially consider to convert this into mixed development for one or two of them, which you never know. Of course, by the time they are going to launch, the mixed development over there can cross 3,000 to 3,002 PSF. So that is also a very good window for you to look at it, because there's always two schools of thoughts. But when it comes to supply, it's no doubt that there might be an increasing supply for a competitor for mixed development. All the more it's more important for you to time your exit and not hold it for too long, in my opinion. So Pasir Ris Town also, you have this Pasir Ris 8, which is a mega mixed development over there that has already TOP and started to move already in their volume. So all this will be around you, and if you're going to hold for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, maybe you may expect that your annualized rate must start going down also. In conclusion, what is the plus points of Pinery in this context is that based on statistics, it appears that convenience in the neighborhood is one of the key in resale value. People still want the ultra super convenience. That's why you notice when it comes to annualized rate, they make much better. Okay, for resale in future, despite there's a price gap of 300 PSF as compared to neighboring condo, it still seems that there are still good demand for exit just don't hold for too long. There seems to be an increasing population in this area, because as we begin to have more and more transformation, you are going to have boosted demand for your exit plans. But in all things, there's also the opposite, which is the EC resale volume in future might be your future competitors. So time your exit timing strategically. And with the massive transformation of Tampines Regional Centre and integrated transport hub, there might be more competitors in due time, so do choose a good layout. Lastly, you have to ensure that your entry price is not more than 30%, with surrounding EC to be on the safer range. That means if you are thinking of, I want to have a bit of buffer because I don't want to take too high a risk, try to cap your gap from your surrounding condo, if it's a private, to be 30% or lower. So this gives you more buffer for exit, for gains in future. With this, I'm going to just share with you that Pinery is 5 more days to preview. And since it's 5 more days to preview, this is the QR code. You might be considering to go down and have a walk. You might be considering to explore what is happening in Tampines area and to explore what is the kind of transformation that you're going to expect. Pinery preview is 5 more days, and this is the target preview period from 14 March all the way to 24th of March. And the target booking date is on the 28th of March. And therefore, this is actually the QR code for you to scan. With this, the QR code to scan, my staff will also be sending the link for the registration for the preview. You can actually scan on this QR code to go down for a shopping experience where I can walk you through. Or you can actually click on the link inside, which I'm going to send it in the chat group in a while. And then you can also register from there. And there you go. To all of you here, if you are thinking of curious about what Pinery looks like, just for kaypoh's sake, or really thinking about maybe I want to invest, or maybe I want to explore the price and plus point and whatever, scan this QR code or click on this link and I'll be there to assist you for your preview. Okay? All right, so I'm going to move on. Okay, so next part we're going to talk about is which units are actually more worthy in the development. I'm going to go through this quickly because I've covered this during my River Modern sharing, and I will also be talking about this for all my projects. With this, there will be 3 main possible developer pricing strategy that you can expect in Pinery. First one is the loading in per floor level increment. The second one is the loading by unit types, and the third one is the loading in views. Now, how do I break it down is, for example, when you know that the developer is going to load on floor level, you can actually see this because this is a usual Hoi Hub pricing strategy. For Hoi Hub, they would normally, normal floor, they will be having a 0.5% increment, which means like a level 4 to level 33 for key residents is only like 0.5. So 1,781 versus 1,791. In this context, we will definitely choose a higher level. Okay? And as we go along, you can also see that level 6 and level 7 at the same stack has about 2% increment. So in the entire stack itself, there's going to be a bit of 0.5, a bit of 2%, or even up to 2.5% in this context. So this is to let you know that the same stack can have this load on floor level strategy that I know you may not be able to identify, but rest assured that we will help you to identify on the day of balloting or when you are ready to choose a unit. Second type of developer pricing strategy will be loading on views. Loading on views means that if you know this location, right, Pinery actually have pretty much not much views, to be frank. But there will be one specific area that I think the developer might load on it, which is over here. Why is it on this block, which is the one that is furthest away from MRT? Because if you take a look at the site plan, okay, this block that I was saying just now actually looks right over the greenery over here, which is not planned for anything. As of now, it's going to be a protected greenery view. So with this protected greenery view, this could be one of the stack that developer might load on views. So it doesn't mean that developer adopt one strategy and that's it, because everywhere they can do, they will try to find their own sweet spot to increase their profits. So do be mindful. This is one of the methods. The other one is loading on views. And the last possible ones that you should see is the loading on unit types. In River Modern, I also mentioned about loading on unit types. Last time, the smaller the unit type, the higher the PSF. Nowadays, the bigger the unit type, the higher the PSF. So if the developer decides to load on big units, what you should be seeing is the 3-bedder being ultra super enticing, because with this, you may be able to get at 2,005 to 2,055 or lower PSF. And that means that you are able to enter at a lower 2. And if the developer decides to load on bigger unit, which is this onwards, they should be going in about 2006 PSF or even more. So if their starting is 2005 PSF and they go into 2006, 2060, 650, anyone who is buying over here for the smaller unit type will stand to benefit, because you use the bigger unit PSF to push up your own margin, capital gain or profit, whatever you call that. So with the safety net or maybe 100 to 200 PSF, if the smaller units are lower price, lower PSF than the larger unit, then this is definitely a steal because it makes sense to buy smaller unit. If the developer does not load on bigger units and decide to load on a smaller unit, then you may want to adopt an opposite approach and start from the biggest possible size as you go along based on your price range. And these are the type of units that you should be expecting. For 2-bedder, 3-bedder, and 4-bedder, you have 600 plus square feet all the way to 700, 800 square feet to 1,055 square feet, or 1,001 to 1,003 square feet. And that makes up to 20% for the 4-bedder, and 35% of 3-bedder, and 43% of 2-bedder. There is no 1-bedder for Pinery. So my advice is be mindful of the right type of pricing strategy that is happening on the day of balloting. And for part stay, part investment, start from the largest possible size in your price range. Meaning to say, if the developer is loading on 4 or 5-bedder, then start from the largest possible 3-bedder that you can enter with the lowest PSF to ride on the price gap with the larger unit in terms of PSF. Finally, do a final comparison of the type selected versus price gap strategy to see your safety nets. Because let's say you select 990 square feet 3-bedder, and the 1,023 square feet is 2,006 PSF, and then the 990 square feet is 2,500 PSF, example, you already have a safety net of 100 PSF. So this gives you certainty, and I hope that we can have this during the day of selection. Now, my name is Kelly, and you have been with. Thank you for staying with. I see all of you are still here, and I'm very happy. I have helped more than 1,000 clients over my span of 15 years. And we have also helped a lot of clients to restructure their portfolio from wherever they are to where they are right now. And I'm extremely happy for them. And my specialty is to ensure that we work towards doubling or tripling your asset value in a more systematic and safe manner. If you want to find me more in social media, you can find me in Facebook under LiveAHomeSG. My personal account is under Kelly Lin, so you can type me or find me on Facebook. I have been a consistent millionaire achiever in PropNext. And therefore, what I'm trying to share with you is that being very family oriented, we also want to make sure that our consistent sales is not because we just want to make money out of you, but we want to make sure that we walk you through this journey and ensure that we are always up to date with the market trends and the market direction to bring you to the next step before others actually start moving. So you actually have some unfair advantage at this point of time. And also you can find me in YouTube. Same thing, type LiveAHomeSG and you can find me over there. TikTok as well. Every week I do this. Every week I see my follower growing. So that's a good thing. So TikTok also, you can find me in Kelly Lin and LiveAHomeSG. These are some of the testimonials that my clients have given me. And also some of the clients that I've walked through with them. Like one of the vivid one is this client. They are very number data driven analysts. And they are very picky and specific with the type of agents they are working with. They have interviewed more than 20 agents before they met me. And when we were working together, they were extremely happy because we managed to push forth their HDB unit to sell at a record price within 2 viewings and allow them to be having a total net worth of 3.7 million from just 1.5 years from the time we met. Because when I met them, their HDB has not MOP yet. And after 1 year of on-the-ground research and looking around, I'm very happy that they have grown their net worth to 3.7 and just last year. Our next plan is to go again in the year 2030 to 2031 to have a net worth towards 5 million and also finally stop at 6 million by the time 2035. Now you might be wondering, how can this be achievable? Isn't market going to change? So the good news is that actually we do a lot of reading and a lot of research on the ground. That's why you're here with me now. And we are very confident that with a very careful approach, we are able to help you to grow in this manner to ensure that you know what we are doing and have confidence in what we are also advising. Also, some of the clients, they may have a negative experience with property. They may have made losses. We also manage to help them to recuperate losses in just one swapping experience and eventually manage to help her to cover a loss of 300 over 1,000 just within 3 years. And now she's on a positive gain of 150,000 onwards. So whether today you are in a stage where you just started exploring or whether you're in a stage where you're thinking maybe you want to really upsize your asset value, your net worth using property, but you just don't know how to go about, you know that actually over here, you are in a very safe situation and we will ensure we will do a customized approach for your direction. This is also a bit of information about me. How do we adopt our safe and systematic strategy in our asset progression? From where I was, from here to here, we actually managed to grow from a 468,000 of HDB into a 2.86 million. And after that, within a span of just 3 years, we managed to make about 860,000. With 860,000, we were able to actually, together with our down payment, have own 4 million condo under my name and one more under my husband's name to become. So I think at the end of the day, what we want to achieve and the reason why you're attending this webinar is also because you are looking for that direction to grow your asset value. So definitely very important to follow someone who preach what they do or do what they preach. You are in safe hands. And I stress this again, I cannot stress this anymore. Pinery is actually 5 more days to preview. If you are curious about where the show flat is, it's just right on this open field near to Tampines MRT in front of City Life. So City Life is the EC, right? That's already privatized. And so my friend was staying there and then she sold. So this is where you are at, just right outside City Life. And if you are thinking, I might want to go over on a weekend to see look, and you're staying nearby, you know where to find me, and I'm always just a call away. I have all your numbers here. I see all your familiar names. So yes, this is the show flat location. One sweet thing that I do for my client is, as much as I want you to grow, I also want you to have some tangible things that you can refer to. So for all the people who follow me for my show flat, you will be gifted with this PWS book, which is a personal written book by our Kelvin Fong. Some of you already have it already. No worries, I will gift you the Ismail book, 25 years from next. So if you have not have it, like Rachel, I'm supposed to pass it to you. And the rest of you who haven't had it, welcome to this. We will be gifting you for all show flat visit. We will be gifting you with 1 book. And this is the book, okay? As slots are limited, I'm only left with 12 books right now. If you are considering again, this is my last call. Book your preview with me and scan this QR code or click on the link in the chat box. Okay, again, the preview date is from 14th of March to 24th of March, 24th of March, right? And then the booking date is on the 28th of March. Whether you're thinking of buying or not thinking of buying or just wanting to explore, feel free to reach out. I will do my best to help you. Okay? I'm going to catch a breath, drink some water, and I hope you guys can think about this. Okay? Hi, Eric. How are you? Good to see you, Eric. All right. So very quickly, we're going to go to bedroom comparison and we're going to have Joey on over here with me. So today is very timely. I actually finished within 1 hour plus. I am very proud of myself. So for bedroom comparisons, we're going to take a look at 2-bedder first, then we're going to look at 3, and finally with 4. For 2-bedder, what you should be seeing is that you should have 4 different types of layouts. For 2-bed, 2-bath, okay, we're not going to look at the stack right now because it will take a long time. We can show you on the sites itself if you go down, if you are going down. And for there's B1, B2, B3, and B4, what is happening is for B1 is a 624 square feet, and it's a dumbbell layout with open kitchenette, a tiny area for dining area as usual, and a shorter wall over here for your two-seater sofa. All right. So this one actually quite important because you cannot fit 3-seater. So 624 is actually a very sizable quantum for early upgraders of thinking of upgrading as they are buying a first investment property as they are upgrading. The other type is the type B2 is 635 square feet. It is actually longish in layout. Personally, I'm not a fan of this layout, to be frank. When you enter from here, you actually have the kitchenette here, a very cramped dining area here. With the plus point is that you have a very long wall here that you can build longer sofa. But besides that, the fact that your dining area is actually quite cramped as compared to this, I would say this may be less advantageous. Plus, if you observe a bit more, the window for bedroom 2 is smaller. Because window for bedroom 2 is smaller, I will definitely discourage this one. If your budget allows, go for a size up to 667 square feet. Now, although it's a traditional layout, you notice that there's also a very sizable living and dining area. You have a bedroom and bathroom all at one side, perfect for families. And your bedrooms are actually quite evenly spaced. And most importantly, it's actually proper window. So this is actually half window height because the aircon latch is outside, but still it's not as small as this window, which is really tiny. Okay? And then, of course, kitchenette, no choice because 2-bedder ma. And since all of them are going to be kitchenettes, I think it's not going to be any issue. But if you are able to go up to a bit higher, the 700 square feet is actually the best layout for you to sell off as a compact 3-bedder or for just newly upgraders that don't want to go too big a quantum. So for instance, you are still going to have an enclosed kitchen. You are going to have an additional study area, perfect for families who want to put their babies to sleep here. Okay? You can convert this study into a study room. You can see this at the show flat. This is a show flat type. And also, you have a dining area that can put 6-seater. Very important. As well as a master bedroom over here. If you're buying for investment and you want to stay, you can actually stay here and you have to consider to rent out this space here, which will fetch you quite good rental because again, earlier I was saying rental demand is high there. Okay, so if I'm going to take the 2-bed plus study comparison with Parktown, which is going to be a competitor anyway, you're going to observe that Parktown's 2-bedder is 764 square feet. Then not to forget, because they are also harmonized, the 764 square feet will have to end up with a 2 over million when they're going to sell in future. So since their highest done is 2006 PSF, their entry price is 1.99, I should not be surprised that they will be selling at 2.2 million in future for their 2-bed plus study. With this, what you should expect is if you are able to enter your 2-bed plus study at 2.5, probably at 2.5 range, right? Your entry price is 1.7 million. So 1.7 million is definitely a very comfortable range for any buyers out there for a 2-bed plus study in this market, because you barely can get any 2-bed plus study within 2 million if you are talking about RCR these days. All the more for Bayshore, I don't think this is the range that you are able to go into if you are looking at 2-bed plus study. So risk marker, if developer is going to load on the larger unit type, I would say anything at 1.7 million range for the 2-bed plus study, or maybe 1.6 million range for their 2-bed, 2-bath. Then 3-bedroom comparison, there's actually 3 different layouts. What you will see is C1, C2, and C3. C1 is actually a partial dumbbell layout, okay? So one side is actually the bedroom. You have also an enclosed kitchen, as well as a walkway that you can put your shoes, and a 6-seater dining with a 3-meter living, as well as you also have bedrooms at one side. And then you have your master bath and your bathroom here. But also notice that their bathroom over here does not have window. So kitchen no window, bathroom no window, maybe a bit harder for you to sell in future because people who are buying here for own stay may not fancy a kitchen and bathroom without window, which is something that I hear on the ground. If you go on to C2, you can observe that it's a traditional layout as you enter from here. You don't have a lot of wastage in the entry area. You still have dining area here. You still have living area. You still have walking space here. And you have a kitchen that has a proper window, very important. And then all your bedrooms are actually full height windows. So with full height windows, it's also very good because anyone who is buying for own stay, they will definitely appreciate this. Where else, this one is only half height window for one of the bedroom. The bathrooms also come with toilet. So since the size is not too much of a difference and your price, if your price range allows, prioritize C2. Now what about C3 is there's a longer walkway over here. This is to each his own. Some people like to build shoe cabinets here, longer ones. Some people like the fact that there's actually a foyer, which means that there's some privacy. With this, I think that the dining area over here is a bit odd because you want to come out from here, go here to eat your food. Maybe it doesn't feel that natural because most people, you come out from here, right? You want to see the openness. But I feel that when you come from here, it's a long walkway, then you come back, you see your family here having dinner. This is the part that doesn't feel very... It's not the usual pattern that we normally have. Unlike this one, if you come in, if you're having dining area here, it's understand because it's quite standard. So for bedrooms, also they have all open full height bedrooms window, which is great. Their bathroom also comes with window, so is kitchen. So the only thing that I will be concerned is this very odd walkway with the moment you turn left, people eating your food. So in terms of layout, I would definitely say this is probably better. And for price wise, if you're looking at that layout, your entry price is possibly at the 2.2 million to 2.2 million. Still very reasonable for an area over here for mixed development. And there's also 3-bedroom with home shelter. 3-bedroom with home shelter is C4, C5, and C4, C5, and C7, and C6, that's 4. So this one is really much for people for own stay. You have 3-bedders that have definitely found key things is you have kitchen, you have all the bathrooms with windows and stuff like that. But the key difference is mostly on the walkway because this one has shorter walkway. This one is slightly more wider walkway. This one is a longer walkway here, and then this one is the foyer walkway. So with this 1055 square feet, what's the difference is you can actually notice that there is a window here at the walkway, which is one of the good points because actually walkway with window you hardly see. But they put the aircon ledge over here so you have extra lighting here. If you want to, you can convert this study into your kids' room or convert this study into your walk-in closet, which leaves some flexibility for people who are looking at long-term staying. So then again, it really goes back to developer pricing strategy. And that's why when it comes to risk marker, if I'm looking at 990 square feet, I'll definitely try to enter at within 2.5 million as the max. And if you're looking at the larger ones, I would say 2.6 million probably at the max. Lastly, 4-bedroom. 4-bedroom, you have D1, D2, and D3. So pretty much not very big difference in terms of their layout over here. But then again, for D1, you have a walkway with a window. And then for D2 and D3 is the usual walkway here. D3 actually, these two actually have a study room over here. And then this one is the store. So if you're looking at a study that you can actually take it out, you can actually have flexibility to go for D3 or D2. Alright. And then there's also 4-bedroom with home shelter and study. This is also their D4 and D5 at 1281 square feet and 1389. So these two actually, the entry price should be something around 3 million and above already. And to choose this carefully, there's also one stack over here and one stack over here. If I were to prioritize a stack, because when it comes to facing, I would definitely encourage that we look at stack 15 or probably stack 6 because the gap is actually further than this one. In terms of stack, because for own stay view is quite important, try to go for stack 6 or stack 15 if your price range allows. So the choice you need for 4-bedder comparison, as with Parktown, since we know that D1 is actually one of the more efficient layouts, and also D2 is also another consideration. For Parktown itself, for similar size, their 4-bedder is much bigger in size, 1,003 plus square feet, with their PSF at 2,003 already done deal. So with 2,003 already done deal, their quantum is 3.1 to 3.2 million. If you're able to go into Pinery at 2005 to 2006 PSF, you should also be able to get in at something at 3 million, or in fact, if you can get lower than 3 million, I think this is a very sweet spot for such a size 4-bedder in Pinery. If it's more than 3 million, maybe the risk factor will be higher. So for the smaller unit types, go for the lower 3, or maybe at the 2.9 or 3 million for D1. For the larger unit, try to keep at 3.1 to 3.2. If you go up to 3.3, I think this will be a tad too high for you to exit next time. Lastly, there's only one kind of 5-bedder, which is E1. There's only 12 units, and for 5-bedder, we are very sure developer will not be sparing about their price. So if you are looking at 5-bedder, 2007 PSF will get you a 3.9 million. So I believe 3.7 to 3.8 is the low floor, and the mid to high floor should be around 3.9 to 4 million already. So folks, if you want to buy the 5-bedder over there, this one really for the long haul, yeah? Okay, so for Parktown, their 5-bedder is 1,006 square feet, and for Pinery is 1,475. Much more sizable in terms of quantum. Parktown has already exceeded 4 million already, and their PSF is 2004 with 4 million quantum. So if you can get something at probably 2,005 per square feet, which I don't think so, you should be going at the lower 3.6 to 3.7. And if it's 2,006 per square feet, it's about 3.84. So it depends on developer on the day. If they decided to be less greedy, maybe you can really get a unit at 3.8 to 3.9. Okay. So I'm going to skip this. So lastly, the best property decisions are made by choice and of course with the right strategy. With this, I want to welcome Joey over here because she will be sharing with you the aesthetic part of Pinery to give you some head starts on what to expect should you be coming down on the day of preview.
Understanding of the project before we open for preview this weekend.